What do I do when me and my partner have different needs on the frequency of sex?
Sex always hurts in the beginning and has no medical reason behind it.
How do I create a good relationship with sex? It's very shameful for me. I just think she's really pretty. Like, I would have this as like an ornament.
Literally.
Like a paperweight.
Oh gosh. Giggles.
Cheers. Eye contact.
Sorry. We are here to talk to you about sex, libido, relationships,
dating, shame.
So much. And the reason that this beautiful, incredible woman is on this channel today is because Edie is not only one of my close friends, but she's actually a psychotherapist and sexologist. So that's why I'm so happy to actually have you here to give us your wisdom, and just beyond being an incredible psychotherapist and sexologist, you just have such a beautiful way of navigating your life, and I look up to this girl so much. Also, I guess it's a good time before we get into it to do a little disclaimer. If anyone does need more support, I'll make sure to put some things down in the description. Also, Edie does take sessions, so I'll leave all her Instagram, her website, everything. So if you want to talk with Edie more, highly recommend. And she does online sessions as well, so even if you're not in Melbourne, you can still book with her.
There might be some topics that we cover that might be a little bit emotional for some, and so just be really mindful of your own well-being and your own safety. And if this content doesn't feel safe for you, then maybe skip for another day.
Completely. Should we start?
Let's start. How to keep sexual attraction alive in long-term relationships.
Huge. I think doing things together that are maybe new to you guys. Curiosity is such a massive, I don't know, it's something that I've really realized how important it is in any relationship, romantic or friendship, just to really be curious, because we actually have so much to learn about each other.
Yeah, what's coming to mind is the book by Esther Perel, Mating in Captivity, and she talks about this concept that safety removes desire, which is a really controversial kind of concept. And she uses a few examples of as soon as couples move in together, or as soon as couples hit that 1 year mark, there tends to be this just undercurrent of safety that comes in. And sort of what you're speaking to there with the curiosity and with trying new things is mixing up the safety a bit. That's throwing in a little bit of uncertainty, a little bit of adventure. Obviously in the first 3 to 6 months of a relationship, you are in that honeymoon phase where your hormones are really vibing and everyone's feeling really that attraction and that spark and that chemistry, and you do have to trust that you will get into a point where the relationship kind of just finds its sort of medium and its balance, and it levels out. And that's a really positive sign, because that means you're starting to create harmony. Some of the questions we had were people that have been together for 9 years or something. So at that point in the relationship, having, this is the classic one, but open communication. Sit down together, talk about your values, talk about your sexual fulfillment, your desires, your fantasies. That's even risky for some people. Shake it up in the sense of what kinds of conversations are you having?
Who we are and how we change in our life comes into the relationship. And so I think sometimes when we are in these long-term relationships, and if we're not changing and then we're expecting the relationship to just keep evolving, then it's okay, well, how can you bring it back to yourself and be how can I grow and change and bring more play into the relationship by pushing myself? We often in relationships can put pressure on our partner or on the situation to just improve. Why aren't we having more crazy sex, or why aren't we having more fun? And then it's sometimes it's when we have to be okay, what can I bring to the table? Where can I fuel myself or push myself?
If you do connect into that part and you're really thriving in that way, your partner will see that and be gorgeous.
Exactly.
I want to engage. I want to be a part of that. And then also one thing to add is just relationships go through cycles and phases, and there are going to be certain points where things fluctuate, and try not to put too much pressure on yourself or on each other to be consistent and to be having the amount of sex you think you should be having, or the type of sex. What do I do when me and my partner have different needs on the frequency of sex? Is it normal for my libido to be out of sync with my partner? How can I fix that? I wish we could fix that. There's no set kind of guidelines to follow. Let's also just talk about what sex looks like to you. You know, there's intimacy, and then there's pleasure, and then there's different types of connection and different types of sex. And I think I love having this conversation because it's just like, for a second, let's just actually pause and maybe debunk a few myths around what sex is.
Let's fucking do it.
Let's do it.
Let's fucking go.
It's not just P&B, let me tell you. I think this is really going to just apply to every single question that we've gotten today. Like, what does sex look like to you? And you get to create your own understanding of that and your own relationship with intimacy and pleasure and sexuality. And, you know, for example, the people wanting to know how to keep the spark alive, look at all the different ways you're actually intimate with your partner without recognizing it for what it is. And for the people who have a high sex drive that might be concerned that they're, you know, desiring too much sex, it's like, well, if that's what feels good for you in your body, then honor that. And if you're exploring different types of sex and different types of intimacy and what is fulfilling for you and what gives you pleasure, then that's only going to be a really supportive and beautiful journey for you. And if you can find people to be intimate with, or if you can cultivate that relationship with yourself in a way that feels good, then that's amazing. And then the same goes for people who are like, okay, my partner wants more sex than I do. There's actually agreements that you can come up with together. There's ways that you can explore what is sexually fulfilling for me and what is fulfilling for you. You know, what it is that brings you that connection. And also, why are you going towards sex and intimacy? What is it that you're getting from that? Are there ways that you can provide that for each other that feels within both of your capacity? One of my favorite practices that I want to bring up is what I like to call the like sexual menu, or like the intimacy menu, which is where you basically come up with a list together of all the different practices that you love. So it could be like making out passionately, having penetrative sex, giving each other full body massage, pleasuring each other, cuddling, dirty talk, sexting, like whatever.
Yeah.
And you can kind of lean into that in times where you're feeling a little bit like, okay, one of you is really craving some intimacy. How can we go to that and find something that would really satisfy you both and that would, you know, feel like you're both honoring yourself?
Sex always hurts in the beginning and has no medical reason behind it. How can I help it? We got so many questions just like around pain during sex. This is just one person voicing a lot of people that kind of had very similar questions.
I'll just read one more because this is like super related to what I'm going to talk about. So it's how to overcome fear of penetration. This includes tampons, sex, masturbation, everything. It's hard to speak to this without hearing more about your experience. But sex is not supposed to be painful. So if you're having painful sex, or if maybe your first time having sex was painful, or if you've had, you know, an STI that's caused your sex to be painful, or if you've had dryness for a period of time, or if you just haven't had enough foreplay, even just once throughout your sexual journey, that could contribute to an experience like, you know, a period of time with vaginismus. Just to start, there's a few different types of sexual pain. There's entry pain, which is more sort of in the category of like sharp, stinging sensations. This can also be really triggered when there's dryness and not enough lubrication. And then there's more deep internal pain, which, you know, can also be an experience of people that have endometriosis. It can occur at different phases of the cycle, and there can be more of a issue, like a deeper issue there. With entry pain, we can be looking at vaginismus, which is a condition where the vaginal muscles contract involuntarily, and that's what causes like the tightness and the pain. And sometimes there's this kind of brick wall where like penetration just isn't possible. So with that second question, talking about the fear of penetration, this is where the cycle of pain comes in. This is one that I often send to clients just because I'm a visual person. So it starts with the body anticipating the pain. So that's the fear and the anxiety contributing to that experience. Then the body, then the body automatically tightens the vaginal muscles. The tightening of the muscles makes the sex painful or makes the penetration painful. And it can also be impossible for penetration to occur. So pain then reinforces and intensifies the reflex response. The body reacts by bracing. That can be more on an ongoing basis. And then avoidance of intimacy or lack of desire may develop. So when we're talking about desire discrepancies in relationships or low libido, this would be one of the questions that I would ask a client is, are you experiencing vaginal dryness? Are you experiencing pain during sex? Are you experiencing, that entry-level pain, that contraction of the pelvic floor muscle? There's a lot there. There's a lot of things that I would encourage you to look out for. Are you clenching your pelvic muscles just throughout your day, which is that bracing? Are you not using enough lubricant? Are you having the type of sex that you want to be having? Is there enough foreplay? Is there enough, safety in the relationships that you're having? Have you experienced any kind of sexual trauma that you haven't explored? With deeper pain on penetration, that is something that I would encourage you to look at the different stages of your cycle because your cervix actually changes. It becomes either lower or higher throughout your cycle. So typically when you're ovulating, your cervix is a little bit higher, and then the closer you get to your bleed, your cervix is lower. And there are certain positions that you can do to avoid deeper penetration during sex. There's also a product called the O-Nut. Have you heard of the O-Nut?
No.
It's like it goes over the base of the penis and it wraps around to create sort of a buffer so that during penetration, the actual penis is not going in as deep as it would without the O-Nut. So that's something that I would encourage for you to look into. A sexologist working alongside a pelvic floor physio will give you a program that you can follow to sort of retrain the muscles in the body to actually understand that penetration can be safe and it's not something to fear.
If your body is having pain, I think we can get really frustrated with it and be like, why aren't you just working, or like, blah, blah, blah. But being able to also just be like, oh, like my body's actually so wise and is trying to tell me something, trying to see it as an opportunity to like look deeper and be like, why is my body doing this? And like really honoring, being like, it probably knows more than I do. Anything to do with like genitals and sex, it's so daunting to go to the doctor and ask for support. But just know that it's like very normal. I have so many friends that I know have experienced those exact fears or those exact pains and, got the support they needed, and they're having fucking great unpainful sex now. So just know that it's possible and that, you can find support in that area.
If penetrative sex is painful and you're just not feeling drawn to that, explore different ways of experiencing pleasure with yourself. And look at what your relationship to sex has been like throughout your life and whether or not you have felt fully embodied. The quality of vaginismus specifically can be around control. So why is your body trying to maybe, close its doors to this experience? And what could you do to support inquiring into that and, where you might not feel a sense of control or safety? How do I create a good relationship with sex? It's very shameful for me.
We got a lot of questions kind of to do with like shame, body shame, feeling, insecure whilst having sex.
How to be present, how to ask for what you want during sex.
Yeah, so I guess we're just kind of going to dive into that rather than just like choose one question.
Shame is probably the number one piece that I work with in my sessions around sex and pleasure and presence. And really a huge one is how to feel more present during sex. And the thing is that if you're feeling preoccupied by how your body looks, or if you're feeling preoccupied about feeling any kind of sense of shame or discomfort or not knowing how to voice your needs, that is going to take you out of the experience. Something that I tell all my clients, which I think is a really fun, silly approach, is what I like to call the tea break analogy, where you might be in a sexual experience, or maybe you're on a date and you're getting ready to go home with someone, or they've asked you if you want to go home with them, and you just take a pause and you check in with yourself. And it can be literally you saying, I'm just going to get up and grab a glass of water, or I'm just going to go to the bathroom. I'm just going to go make a cup of tea. Would you like one? And it gives you an opportunity just to kind of like reset. And what I notice in my practice can really happen is that people rush into things when you're not feeling embodied and grounded. You know, you don't know what you want. Like today you were like, I don't know if I want honey in my tea. I'm like focusing on
so many other things,
setting up the camera. Like I'm not, connected now to my like core instincts. And it's true. Like if you're on a date with someone new and you're feeling excited and maybe you're feeling a little bit out of your comfort zone, you might not fully be connected to your body's yes and your body's no. You might not fully be, feeling really present in your sensation and in your sensual body. So it's about just finding little ways to connect with yourself, and even to voice when you're feeling those things coming up in a way that can just be lighthearted. Like if you haven't been intimate with someone in a while, if it feels like appropriate in the right moment, you could voice that to kind of just normalize it and bring it out of the shadows. Shame dies when conversations are had in safe spaces. So if you are feeling the safety, slowly start to just tease out those parts of you that are a little bit tense or uncomfortable or a bit rigid. And the most important thing is to stay connected to your breath and to stay connected to sensations and what's actually happening in the body and in the space. That could even just be like noticing the sensation of someone's hands on your body, or noticing the sensation of the chair beneath you, or the sheets, the fibers of the materials, or the lights, or the temperature of the room. I also often hear people say, my mind is constantly trying to pull me out of sex and I'm always in my head and I need to get out of my head and into my body. And it's like, yeah, we could kind of phrase it that way, but also your brain is your largest sex organ. So why not utilize your brain to be your ally and actually really enhance your experience? Like, focus on the tiny little experiences that are happening and like really enlarge those experiences so that you can just be fully present and in the moment.
Going back to like the cultivating the presence, I think when you're present, you're able to make those little differences of being like, I actually do not like this ugly lighting. Like, let's put on a candle instead. It's fucking normal if you don't feel sexy under fluorescent lighting, or like, like it's okay to like want to like put some more oil on, or like put a nice scent on, or like have a shower before. Like that is all stuff that you're so allowed to do. And I think the more I see people just strong in themselves and know what they want, it's like so sexy, for someone to be like, fuck this, I need this. It's so easy also to say all these things. I know that when you're like in a moment, it can be so much harder. Everyone can go into a massage being like, oh yeah, like I'll just tell them if the pressure is not good enough or whatever. But then when you're having the massage, it's like sometimes so hard to just like get yourself to be like, hey, maybe like the aircon off, or like, could you focus more on that or something? But it's like those moments of courage where like usually like the masseuse is like, they don't fucking care. They just want you to have the best time possible. And that's where we just have to practice in little ways to just like use our voice in those moments. And that can take time, and it takes a lot of courage. It's very vulnerable.
Laugh at yourself. Laugh at those little moments of like, oh wait, I need to readjust.
Yeah.
Also, see if you can remove yourself from, it's a very heteronormative narrative to be in that progression of sex, like, foreplay, penetration, orgasm, done. See if you can shuffle that around a bit and not prioritize orgasm as the goal, because I guarantee you that will change your whole experience. If you're intimate for a little while and then you have a little break and then you start pleasuring each other in a new way and then you have a little cuddle or you get up and have a tea, or, you know, it's like not only does that make the orgasm so much more incredible because the build-up has been there, but it also just like changes the pace. It helps to not get in sexual ruts, and it helps you to sort of be, just more spontaneous and fluid and not focus too much on like ruining the momentum, and be okay with adjusting things when you need to. And like I said, start with baby steps. Be with yourself in solitude and sit with like where the discomfort is and what parts of your body you can appreciate for different reasons, and explore your erogenous zones and start to build a relationship with your body that's not purely based on image, that's based on like, wow, my hands are so tactile and I can experience so much sensation in my hands, or my legs feel so, you know, strong, and when someone grabs them it really helps me to be in my body and it helps me to be grounded. The sensation of someone touching my belly might feel a little bit tender and uncomfortable, but it also feels really arousing actually and quite nice. And see if you can start to reframe some of these relationships with certain body parts, and you know, where they actually have a different function, and not just to be based on image, but first start with just neutral, like my legs carry me around all day. How good is that?
So fucking good.
They're so strong and I love them for that. And then if you reach that point of neutrality, that wasn't really neutral because I said I love them. They're so strong, that's great.
Yeah. And that's it.
Neutrality. If you do reach that point of neutrality, then start to work towards a little bit of, you know, appreciation and love. And just really cultivate, like I said, if you're not comfortable being with someone else in your nakedness, then start to explore being solo in your nakedness. Another thing when it comes to speaking up during sex is have those conversations outside of the bedroom to start with.
Yeah, that is such a good point. I'm glad you brought this up.
Yeah, because there's nothing more vulnerable than being naked and in bed with someone and then trying to have a vulnerable conversation.
Oh my God. Sometimes we expect ourselves to be able to say everything we want in that moment. But that's why I also love debriefs. I feel like sometimes after sex, that's a moment where you're both like really like still tender and open and like want to keep talking. And I think I always love a debrief after sex, like what worked, what didn't, what do you want to do more of next time? Or it's like I feel like we had, I think, even a question of someone being like, I feel so awkward like dirty talking, but I was just gonna bring that up. I want to do that. Say those things out of a sexual setting to your partner, and it's so funny. And once you bring the like, you're just like literally sitting there and you're just like having to read out these things that like you find on the internet, or like you just have these lines that you have to say it back to each other. And I think that's when you like find the humor and just like say it, and then you can bring it into the bedroom, and then it's like, oh, this is not weird anymore.
Yeah, and like with the dirty talk question, I actually really like piling dirty talk and asking for your needs into the same moment, because you can ask for your needs to be met in a sexy way, and then that all of a sudden is dirty talk. And you can also, with dirty talk, having an objective is really helpful, because then you're not trying to pull things out of thin air. You're like, okay, well, I'm actually just going to give you direction and I'm going to give you guidance. But if I do that in a way that's a bit more, you know, sexy, then there's me ticking both boxes.
Yeah.
And like Joy said, you know, have these conversations when you're driving in the car together, or when you're texting, or when you're just chatting in the kitchen while you cook dinner or whatever, and actually ask each other, what is it that you like to hear during sex? Do certain words or certain phrases turn you off, or do certain words, you know, do it for you? And give each other feedback, check in, be like, how was last night for you? What did you like about it? What did you want to do differently next time?
Yeah. While you're talking, I'm like remembering so many questions that we haven't answered to do, even with like, you know, when medication changing libido, and, you know, those questions about like cycles and how to like work with cycles. But we've been literally filming for so long that I think we may need to end the video here. But I hope you guys found this really helpful. If you did, let us know, and maybe we can film more, because there's so many questions that we feel like, I don't know, we could just keep talking and have so many things to add. I guess where to end this video on as well is so many of these conversations, we often need to have them again and again in our lives. You know, so much of it is stuff that we already know, but just hearing someone say it out loud is like those reminders. Hopefully this just felt like a warm hug.
Thanks for asking really great and in-depth questions as well. It's been fuel for this whole conversation. So love you.
I love you so much.
Bye, we love you. Goodbye. Thank you. Bye. Thanks for having us. Subscribe. Joy is a queen. And how sexy is Joy?
I'm wearing Edie's vest as well. Wait, I need to whisper. I'm wearing Edie's vest and Edie's wearing my top, so we did a little swapsy. So we hope you like our outfits. Yeah. Bye. Okay. I think we got our shots.